Good evening. We are coming on the air with breaking news from the White House. President Trump posting on his Truth social media platform just moments ago. The U.S. has completed a, quote, very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites inside Iran. The president saying that all U.S. planes are now outside of Iranian airspace. Let's go directly to what the president has just posted on his social media site. We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Efeshan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. The president continues to state, congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. In caps, now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This all comes after a week of back and forth strikes between Israel and Iran after Israel hit key targets related to Iran's nuclear program. Tonight's news has major implications for American foreign policy, with the U.S. now directly involved with the conflict between Israel and Iran. Let's go right to Vaughn Hilliard. He is at the White House this evening. Vaughn, what else have we learned?
The president just returned from his New Jersey golf course just about 2 hours ago. He came here back to the White House. A Marine has been standing outside of the West Wing as he met with his national security team. And right as this social media post was put out by the president, I saw the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, on his phone outside of the West Wing doors. The president just yesterday, when I was with him on the tarmac as he headed to New Jersey, he had put out this idea that Iran had 2 weeks to potentially negotiate a nuclear agreement with the United States and end the Israeli airstrikes into Iran territory. Now, the president himself had suggested that they would have 2 weeks max, but notably did not rule out a more immediate strike. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu had asserted that Israel had the capacities and the ability to take out the nuclear facilities. And when I asked the president very specifically about the Israeli prime minister's claim, he pushed back and undercut that assessment, saying that the U.S. was the only one that had the bombing capabilities to strike particularly the Fordo nuclear site, which there are activities half a mile underneath the ground. It is not clear at this point in time whether B-2 bombers were used in this instance to take out the Fordo nuclear site. So I don't want to jump ahead of what we know here at this time. But for the president, this is a striking moment, attacking a Middle East country that the president had sought for the better part of the last 2 months to negotiate with. But clearly, the president making the decision to go forward with these strikes, despite Iranian threats that they would respond in kind by attacking U.S. military installations. There are a lot of outstanding questions here about where Iran goes from this moment, but the United States standing in solidarity with Israel, who 1 week ago began that attack with their initial airstrikes into Iran. There are a lot of outstanding questions, Jose, here at this hour, but the U.S. taking a significant step. And I will note that I had the chance to ask the president yesterday very specifically how this moment was different than the decision of a previous Republican administration more than 20 years ago to strike over questionable intelligence about weapons of mass destruction. And he said that he knew that they were building a nuclear weapon. That is in contrast to the assessment of his own Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who suggested that the U.S. intel community did not have that same intelligence. Jose.
And Vaughn, during that conversation that you had with the president, he essentially said that his Director of National Security was wrong in her assessment that Iran had not yet gotten to the point where they could either build or complete building a nuclear weapon.
That's right. We know that, especially over the last months, that Iran has enriched high levels of uranium that could go into developing a nuclear weapon. But there's a distinction. again, just yesterday in an interview with our Andrea Mitchell, the Iranian foreign minister exclusively told her that they are using uranium for peaceful purposes. Now, the question here that you just alluded to was Tulsi Gabbard. Again, Donald Trump, the president's handpicked director of national intelligence, standing by their assessment that they have no intel that an actual nuclear weapon was being developed. Now, there are questions of whether that would take weeks, months, potentially a year to actually build that weapon. But the Iranian foreign minister making it clear to our colleague Andrea Mitchell that they had no intent to build a weapon. Of course, this is a long-standing back and forth here between the United States and Iran. It was 10 years ago that under the Obama administration, an initial nuclear agreement was struck between several European countries and the United States that would allow inspectors into several of these facilities, including the Fordo nuclear site that we were just discussing that exists half a mile underneath the ground here. But back in 2018, the Trump administration decided to pull out of that. There were sunset provisions. They said that they did not address proxies of Iran and that they felt that issuing sanctions would be more serious means. So there's a lot of questions here tonight for the president and this White House to answer.
Von Hillard at the White House, of course, keep on this, stay monitoring this situation. That concludes this NBC News special report. We'll have more breaking coverage right now on our streaming network, NBC News Now, and online at NBCnews.com. I'm Jose Diaz-Balart. Thank you for the privilege of your time.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.